from somewhere near Paris. We've had 6 weeks now in the van, and a few people have been asking us about how we decide where we're going to go and how we know where to stay. So we thought we'd give you a rundown on what we've been up to accommodation wise, particularly here in France. So first thing, how do we decide where we're going to go? Well, basically we look at the map and we pinpoint a destination or two, and then we decide, do we want to get to that place in one go, or do we want to stop and check out several smaller places on the way? And as a rule we tend to check out smaller places. It's important to remember, if you're going to do a trip like this, that you have to be flexible, because we've had to change our itinerary several times. Partly because of the van, so having to get a bit of work done on that, and partly because of the weather. So the itinerary itself is very flexible. So there are 3 main sites we use to decide where we're going to stay, and hopefully on the computer here you'll be able to get some idea. So Search for Sites is one that we used a lot in the UK. It is a UK site, and it's good because it gives you campsites, it gives you wild camping, it gives you car parks, and it gives you pub stops, and those things were really good. We're finding for Europe that Camper Contact is a really good one. It's got thousands of years and campsites, and also, whoops, it's disappeared, Park for Night. Now, normally we don't use these on the computer, we actually use them on either the tablet or the phone, but they're all good because they give you reviews and they give you the coordinates of where some of these sites are. Park for Night in particular is often just wild camping, so people are just putting on that site where they've stayed and what services there are or are not. So once we decide where we're going to go, we actually also have to figure out how to get there. So we are using a combination of the atlas, because Neil still likes his map, and the sat-nav. Basically it's taken us about 6 weeks to get used to using a sat-nav. We've had a few issues with being taken down really small roads because the sat-nav doesn't realise that you're in a motorhome. So that's why a combination of the map and the sat-nav has been really good. And what's also been really good is Neil finally figured out last week how you put coordinates into it. So we can put in longitude and latitude, and that's been good because it's getting us to exactly where we want to go.
So here in France we've learned all about these things called airs. It's a great concept. Every little town, every little village, every major town seems to have a campground dedicated to motorhomes, and they've got one of these little puppies, and these are a place where you can empty your wastewater, you can fill up with clean water, and you can plug into your power. Now some of these are free, some of them you pay a couple of euros to use the services, and some of them you pay a little bit more because you know you're in a prime location and you're getting a pretty good facility. They have a number of these. So this is our 4th year, and I've got to say we're really impressed with it. The first one was in a supermarket, which doesn't sound very glamorous, but very, very practical. So a big supermarket car park, one corner is dedicated to motorhomes. Obviously you get your food, do all your bits and pieces, you can buy petrol there, diesel there, and there was even a laundromat on this particular one. The one at Ypres was a very scenic one. You could walk into the village, by the water, beautiful. And this one, I don't know if you can hear it, but there is a cathedral about 400 metres that way. I can just hear the bells chiming, and unfortunately here in Beauvais you probably can't see it through the mist, but believe me, there's a rather large cathedral there. So when we get electricity it's pretty simple. We just plug it in just like any cable. The only difference is here in Europe we've got an adapter, so they've got a 2-point plug, or we have the standard 3-point plug, but we just roll it up, wrap it up, away we go.
So one of the other mundane tasks we have to do with the van is fill up with water every 2, 3 or 4 days, just depending on what we're up to. So in this particular year it costs you €2 to get 4 minutes of water, which should be enough to fill up our 100 litre tank. we got to France, we knew we wanted to go to Paris. We weren't sure about whether we were going to get off the ferry from Dover at Calais or Dunkirk. And so we looked at the map and thought, well, if we get off the ferry at Dunkirk, we're not far from Belgium, so we might as well go and visit Bruges and Ypres, which is what we did. After we'd visited those two places, we looked at the map again and decided which way we were going to go to Paris, and we googled a couple of places on the way. The first one we stopped at was Arras, and we didn't know much about it except that it was supposedly a pretty place, which it is, but that threw up a really good surprise because we discovered a New Zealand connection with the New Zealand soldiers who tunnelled underneath the city in World War I. After Arras we went to Beauvais, and that was another pretty town that we didn't really know a lot about either. We went there mainly because it's close to Paris, and also because we needed to do things like laundry and change some money, and I decided to go to the hairdressers. But we also discovered a beautiful big cathedral and a great free museum.
First top up of diesel in France. Hopefully it is diesel. It's called Gazole. We hopefully are putting the right stuff in. It looks to be a smidgen cheaper than the UK. So this is the first time to fill it with gas or LPG, and we've got to use one of these adapters. Hopefully it fits. Hopefully we've got the right one. So after nearly 6 weeks on the road in both Great Britain and here in France, we've learned a few things and we've made a few mistakes along the road, but it's time to fess up and confess who we really are. Up until now, everybody has been honking their horns and shaking their fists at the Brits who have been in this vehicle, but that doesn't seem fair. So from now on, when they shake their fists, they'll be shaking their fists at us Kiwis. For the first few weeks, I think we should have had an Australian one, because that's when we made all our big mistakes in the first few weeks. But we didn't think of that at the time.
Welcome to Ypres in Belgium and to our testing of Belgian traditional chocolates. Apparently they're supposed to be the best in the world, and we're about to find out.
I'm sure they grow fruit and vegetables, but we ended up with this.
Yeah, well, this is going to be way better. So, we also discovered today that it's a very highly competitive industry, because when we bought these we weren't allowed to video it because the woman was worried that her trade secrets would be let out. But we let them out anyway.
Obviously industrial espionage is alive and well in Belgium in the chocolate industry.
Now, I can't remember what we bought though. Can you remember? She bought a whole bunch of these. Well, basically you got to choose the ones that you wanted, so we've ended up with how many? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, at least half a dozen different chocolates. I know we got rum and coffee. I know we got one with champagne.
And if I'm lucky, I'll get 1 or 2 of the 15.
Maybe. Which one do you want to start with?
A white one.
Right. You can do the taste test because you like the white one.
No, you won't like this.
What is it?
Chocolate with a...
Oh, it's got chocolate mousse in it.
Moussey in the middle.
Okay. Well, I'm going to try this heart-shaped one because I'm pretty sure it was my choice, but I can't remember what it is.
Marmite.
Oh, it's orange. Makes a bit of a change from the cheap fruit nut we normally buy.
You may have seen in the last videos, I get a sausage roll, I have a bite. I get a waffle, I have a bite. But what you don't see behind the scenes is that as soon as the camera's off, it gets snatched out of my hand and somebody else finishes it. So this is quite a treat, and a photographic evidence that I'm allowed to share some of this.
These are good. Incredibly rich though. I thought I was going to be able to eat the whole lot, but I don't think I can.
Well done, Belgium.